I'm Jim McMahon, the recruiting director for Cetera Investors. I've been in the business 30 years, trained at Merrill, complex manager and branch manager, Morgan Stanley, helped Raymond James open high net worth offices. I was a recruiting director for Ameriprise, Kestra, and I now run the platform for Cetera Investors, which is a supported independent firm. So with that said, let's go through today's presentation. Matt, if you don't mind going to the next screen. Today, we're going to talk about what independence is, what an independent advisor is, how the payouts are slightly different as an independent advisor, the economic packages that you'll receive in a transition, the different types of platforms being an independent advisor, and then the value of ownership of your own company, and then what a buy-sell agreement is once you're an independent advisor. Thank you very much. Next screen, thank you. To be independent, you typically need to choose to be independent. It doesn't happen by mistake. And you'll start an LLC and you will operate your business on a platform that supports independent advisors. Many people believe they act solely and by themselves on a W-2 platform or a Morgan platform or a Merrill platform. But with that said, you're going to see the differences as we go through this presentation, both economically and the value of business ownership. Next screen, please. An independent advisor will be issued a Form 1099 from the broker-dealer or the trading platform. The business owner is responsible for the tax reporting and possibly health benefits and possibly office space. You'll always be issued a 1099. How you choose to affiliate might be slightly different. Do you open up your own office? Do you blend into an existing office? Do you join an OSJ? I'll touch upon all those different types. But then health benefits. Does your spouse have health benefits? Do you lean into the spouse's health benefits, or are you the provider of the family? And do you have to make this a line item for your business? So again, these are topics in your due diligence process that you're going to have to address. Next slide, please, Matt. The payouts are typically higher than a W-2 advisor. You're going to be somewhere in the 75 to 90% range. The rule of thumb is the more support you're going to receive from your broker-dealer, the lower the payout. The higher the payouts can be more of an institutional level relationship. So what does that mean? A lot of times as a W-2 advisor, you might be looking for a plug and play opportunity. You want to leave your platform and go to an independent platform. And you want to have a lot of the same services you're used to. Now, with that said, you might receive a slightly lower payout than the 95, might be closer to the 75 to 80 range. At the 95% range, you are more or less choosing to start your own firm and then sit that firm on top of an independent platform. The 95 range is more or less, you're going to have, maybe $10 million of revenue of advisors stacked on that platform, and a lot of the services you're going to choose to provide in your own house versus leaning on the broker dealer. Next, Matt. Matt, next slide.
You should see economics packages, Jim.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. The economic packages you're going to receive from your W-2 are going to be less in a W-2, going to the independent platform. The economics are based on the profitability of the recruit to the host broker dealer. So what does this mean? If I said to you all offers were essentially the same, you might look at me like I'm a little crazy. But if you think about this, an offer, an economic package is going to be 7, 9, or 10-year note associated to it. In that, the profitability that you're going to make to the firm of roughly 33 to 40% is about what you're going to receive in your upfront amount in a transition comp. So if you're a W-2 going to a W-2 advisor, you're going to be in a spot where you might get 200% upfront going from a Merrill to a Morgan. Now, if we talk about what that might look like, you're going to have roughly, and let's say you're $1 million advisor. As a $1 million advisor, you're going to get $2 million upfront. Now, what's going to happen is it's going to be a 10-year note. So you're going to roughly be accountable for $200,000 a year to show up in your W-2 as a W-2 advisor. You didn't go to independent, you went W-2 to W-2. And then you're going to be accountable for the taxes on that $200,000 note every year. So with that said, remember, we pay taxes in after-tax dollars. So if you have $200,000 you owe in taxes, you're going to owe roughly $80,000 a year in taxes on a W-2 platform. And again, you pay it in after-tax dollars. So if you're $1 million producer and you choose to go and take the big check, at the end of the month, you're going to have roughly $33,000 per paycheck. After taxes, roughly $20,000 of income and paycheck. Now you're going to take off the due taxes that month from the big note, which is going to be roughly $6,000 or $7,000. Your net income as a $1 million producer after you take the big check is going to be roughly $14,000 a month. Now, as a $1 million producer, yes, you now have $2 million in your bank account, but are you going to live on $13,000 or $14,000 a month? Chances are you're not. So you're going to start dipping into the $2 million that you're given up front as part of your income stream and whittle that number down. As opposed to if you're an independent, if you choose to go to an independent platform as a $1 million advisor, your total package might be roughly $1 million. And again, I'm being very broad stroke in this. It might be roughly $1 million you get up front. But now as an independent advisor with that higher payout, let's say you're after costs and all the things you're going to run, you have a net 80% payout. So you're going to have an $800,000 income. After taxes, it's going to be roughly $66,000. But because you only took $1 million up front on a 9-year note, you'll be accountable for roughly $4,300 a month in taxes. So with that said, now you have income levels that are dramatically higher. You have your tax responsibilities dramatically lower. So I'm going to guesstimate net after you pay the taxes on the transcomp, you're still going to gross out at about $30,000 to $33,000 a month as a 1099 independent $1 million producer. So again, you might get more money up front as a W-2 advisor, but your tax responsibility eats away at your income over the course of the 10 years of that note. As an independent advisor, you might get half as much up front, but you're going to have a dramatically higher payout, but you're also going to have less of a tax responsibility. There's another piece to this puzzle I'm going to touch upon later, which is the equity of owning the business. So your net worth is actually going to be higher as a 1099 independent advisor. I'll touch upon that in a few screens. Matt, next screen. Not all platforms are the same. When you go independent, you have to kind of figure out which model fits you the best. There's the direct-to-broker dealer. The direct-to-broker dealer is very simple. You, a partner, a support person, go and open up your own office. Your relationship is directly with your independent broker dealer. You're going to have roughly a 90%, 88% payout. You're going to run your platform with paying your rent, paying your healthcare benefits, your own retirement plans within your own group. But at the end of the day, the relationship is between you and the broker dealer. What you will miss in this opportunity is the economies of scale. Meaning if you're $1 million or $2 million office, that's wonderful. You're having a great income, but the leverage you can put against your independent broker dealer is dramatically less. The strength you go to fight for things within the platform, we've been advisors for a long time, you know, to go back to the broker dealer and fight for things occasionally is less than it would be if you're at a larger scale. The second version of independence is the OSJ model. Back when independence first started, somebody in the group had to have a Series 24. It's like the Series 8 for the branch managers on the W-2 side. But what has happened is the independent firms made everything centrally organized for compliance. So with that said, the compliance portion of being an OSJ, of course, stands for Office of Supervisory Jurisdiction, has been taken away from the group, but it now has become a sales organization. So you might have 5, 10, 20, 50 advisors grouped together that are using their GDC to go to a higher number. And then the OSJ will set up their own grid system to pay the advisors out on that platform. So you don't necessarily go direct to the broker dealer, you go through the OSJ to the broker dealer. The OSJ does not work for the broker dealer, the OSJ works for themselves. So it's an entity that chose to start their own firm and sat it on top of an independent broker dealer option on how to run your practice on an independent broker dealer. So now you answer the first question of from the first downside for the direct is you lose scale. Well, here you have all scale, right? You have a group of advisors that may say we're a group of $50 million in GDC, seen as one entity. We can have leverage against the broker dealer, maybe getting an extra point or two in your GDC payouts, maybe getting a little more marketing support. But with that said, you now give up your autonomy, meaning if your OSJ chooses to leave that broker dealer, do you go with them or do you stay on the platform? The environment that the OSJ has built, and if it moves away, well, is it going to be the same environment on the new broker dealer platform? Or if you choose to stay on your current broker dealer, do you go direct? Do you join another OSJ? Will the services of that OSJ be the same as the OSJ that left? So again, you're independent, but you lost a lot of your decision making because you're part of a bigger group that might choose to leave the platform and go a different direction. Structured independence is actually what I represent with Cetera Investors. We are one of the 5 channels within the Cetera platform. And this is the fastest growing version of independence. What this is office space, branch manager, some support within the office, the copier, the printer, the coffee maker, it's all supplied. You are still a 1099 advisor. You open up your own business, you get your own LLC, as I touched upon before, but you run your practice within a group of other independent advisors. The strength to this model is, as I said, the risk is mitigated. You don't have to write an upfront check to start an office. You're not going to work out of your home. You can. You have the flexibility to do what you want, but you have an office to go to. You have peers that you're surrounded by. You have the opportunity to lean on other people's ideas versus being on the island, which might be more the direct to broker dealer model. It gives you more of the camaraderie of being in an office space. Again, you can come and go as you choose. In our platform, we have 42 offices throughout the country. So I like to say they're in every NFL city plus Omaha. So not only do you get to use your own current office in your local space, but you get to travel around the country, maybe and interface with clients in different spaces. So the structured independence, as I said, you might have maybe it might look like a lower grid, but the bottom line, the net costs are going to be very comparable to both the direct to broker dealer and the OSJ model. So again, if there's a difference in the VIG, figure out what the services you're looking for and see if you can blend into that spot. The franchise model is run by a couple of firms out there. And this is more or less, you're still independent, but the firm's going to lean into how you make your profit on the platform. Meaning, if you're going to have your own DBA, your own doing business title, the name of your business and how it runs, but you're also going to have to oftentimes have the size in the marketing of the firm that represents you also. So you don't appear to really be running your own independent shop. You're leaning on the other firm for maybe some more support than you might want. I jokingly will say in the franchise model, they're going to tell you not to put 3 squirts of ketchup on the burger. They're going to tell you to put 2 squirts of ketchup on the burger. Again, you still own your business. You're still a 1099, but there's a little more input by the platform, the broker-dealer platform, as you run your practice. So if we take a look at these and we go back to the concept of what I talked about, where the payout scales are going to be between 75 and 95, I'm not going to say pick the highest payout. I'm going to say figure out which business model works best for you on your independent platform. And then once you're in that model, you will see a comparable payout. So you might end up at a payout of 85%, but you're getting more support from the broker dealer, and that might be better for you. So again, don't necessarily go to the highest payout. Go to what the platform that best suits your practice and how you want to go forward. Next slide, please. The net worth of the business ownership increases by the valuation that he or she now owns. What does that mean? I touched upon this briefly before when I talked about getting the taxes and the amount of money you receive up front. Valuations of an independent practice are based on the brokerage versus the advisory versus the financial planning. And then also we take into account the age of the client to evaluation. What does this mean? Ballpark. This is not gospel, but ballpark. You take a look at your book of business, assign a 1 times earnings on your advisory book, on your transaction portion of your business, a 2.5 times earnings on your advisory practice, and then as high as a 3.5 times earnings on your financial planning practice if the clients are paying for the financial plan. If they pay for the financial plan, they're going to show you where all their assets are. There's a higher valuation to that business. So again, let's go back to our $1 million advisor. You're a $1 million advisor. You chose to go independent. You only, what a problem to have, got a $1 million check up front. So you're accountable for the taxes on that $1 million up front. You have a higher payout, so it hurts your daily lifestyle to pay those taxes. But as I promised, this is where it becomes interesting. So after 1 year of getting on the platform, you've moved your book, you moved your assets, your GDC, your production is back up to the $1 million. If you just take a rule of thumb, just take a look at the numbers here and apply a 2.5 times earnings to an advisory style book of business, you now own a company that's worth $2.5 million. So you got your $1 million up front to go to an independent platform. You have an 80% payout minus some taxes for the upfront comp. Okay, but you're still going to receive a nice big check at the end of the year. On top of that, you now own your own business at worth $2.5 million. In the independent world, there's the opportunity to buy and sell your books of business dramatically higher than on the W-2 side. On the W-2 side, your broker dealers are going to get involved in who gets it and why they get it, and maybe you got to pay some reparations to the firm as it goes over there. Here, it's a transaction between two individuals. The broker dealer may have veto power at the end, but with that said, it's really between two advisors, one choosing to buy the other person's book of business at that valuation, or gives you that valuation. One piece of advice I will give right here is if you think about this, you move from your W-2 firm to an independent firm. So there's going to be a year of transition. Of course, your assets will move within probably the first 30 days, 45 days, but the GDC takes a little bit of your advisory to ramp back up. So you're not really back to the $1 million till really your first full year passed. So I might recommend, so you don't have, if something were to happen to you, that the book will be worth $2.5 million. I would suggest maybe buying some term life insurance policy to make that bridge. I'll touch upon that in a future slide. I was going to mention it here. Matt, next slide. The buy-sell agreement. So now you have a business that's worth $2.5 million as a $1 million advisor. This is what makes independence unique. It's not necessarily the higher payout. It's not necessarily the autonomy getting away from your broker dealer, but it's the fact that you now own your own company. And that valuation of roughly 2.5 times earnings of your book of business, it's life-changing. So if we say that you now own your own book of business and you go to retire, so of course you had your own retirement plans along the way, you sheltered your own money, but now when you go to retire, you can sell that business and there will be people, trust me, lined up around the block to buy it. There are more buyers than sellers in today's environment. Also, let's say you choose to retire, but not fully retire. Let's say you only choose to sell $700,000 worth of that book. You'll still get $2.2 million for that, but then you keep $300,000 of GDC for yourself, and you still have an income of about $250,000 just by dealing with maybe 10 of your favorite clients you've had your whole life. So that's even a partial sell with some income stream. There's really multiple ways you can do this. Again, it's what you choose to deal with in your lifestyle. The buy-sell agreement, I started to touch upon this in the last screen, is when you go independent, you're going to want to find somebody that if something happens to you or the other person, that you're going to buy their book of business and then pay the family off. So if you're both $1 million advisors and and unfortunately something happens to one of the advisors and he's hits by the proverbial bus, The other advisor can buy the practice at the 2.5 times earnings. The firm oftentimes will help. There's also third-party banks that will help in that financing if necessary. And this is all they do. So you're not recreating a wheel. This is an environment for them. So you can actually buy the book of business and then pay off the family for the book of business. So again, paint an example here. You're $1 million advisor. You have a net 80% payout. You go and buy another book of business, either just out of marketing you choose to buy, or something happens to your partner. You can now just take basically a 20% spread on your book. So instead of getting an 80% payout based on $1 million book of business, maybe now you're getting a 60% payout based on $2 million worth of business for X amount of time until that note clears up between you and the family or the selling advisor. So with that said, instead of making 80 on $1 million, you're making 60 on $2 million. You're still going to make, $1.2 million on a $2 million book of business. Again, until that time frame ends up, then you'll be back up to the 80% payout, maybe 85, because you now have more economies of scale. But at that point, you're definitely making more than $1.6 million a year. The last piece of why I see it's important to be independent is, especially if you have a family or family members who are going to join your practice. I know for a fact there's one W-2 firm that does not allow your children to join your practice. There's one situation. So if you can't bring them in and eventually allow them to inherit your practice on a W-2 platform. There's other W-2 platforms that say your children, if they join your practice, must be a team member for 10 years before they sell the practice, or the family your children can take over the practice. Again, a lot of these are to protect the firm from the other W-2 advisors seeing that happening. Like, why don't I get a piece of that book? If they don't own it, why aren't I getting it in their retirement? So again, that sets up that way. Here, as a 1099 independent advisor, you get to call the shots of what happens to your book of business. You can sell it. You can, as I said, sell a portion of it. You can bring your children into the business. They could take it over, make it a family business over time. One instance I've recently had was I actually had and recruited somebody that was a 1099 already independent advisor at another place, but realized that their children were going to take over the book, but the only education they were getting was from the father who owned the business. So he wanted to get more into an ecosystem so the children, the adult children in the business, they're straddling 30 years old, can grow up with also his tutelage, but also the firm's tutelage. He actually went to the supported independence model on purpose. He wanted his kids to learn more than he was able to teach them, and then it actually filters up. So as the firm matured over time and using new technology and whatnot, the children learned it and implemented it into the system to help the father grow his practice. Okay, next slide, Matt. I believe that's more or less it. I touched upon, why the differences between a 1099 and a W-2. I also touched upon the concepts of business ownership, the concepts of buy-sell agreements, why there's higher payouts, why there's different offers made in economic packages between a 1099 and a W-2 firm. So if I may, and I feel like I kind of gave you a very high-level 101 conversation here, it's not necessarily the highest payout you're looking for. It's the environment, the model you're looking for. Go to that and then see how the payout works on that model you're looking for. The highest upfront money, it may not also be what you're looking for, because again, if a firm makes a lot more money on you on the platform over the course of your life there, that's why you're getting more money up front. So I'm not saying don't take the highest money up front, but know why there's more money up front. Some of these models may have more profitability on the advisor as they're sitting on the platform. Therefore, that 33 to 40% value of the entirety of the note, of the profitability that you're sitting on the platform for the length of the note, that is why you're getting more money up front. So again, don't necessarily take the most money up front. Ensure you understand why you're getting more money up front. And then lastly, how much autonomy do you really want? Do you want to lean into a structure or an environment that's going to help you grow your practice? Or do you want to sit on an island and kind of just, deal with it yourself? And you could be as remote in this business as you want and receiving your information from, independent research that you buy on your own, have wholesalers come around. A broker dealer may give some sort of sales support as an independent advisor, or there's more structured versions that you might on paper get a lesser payout. But if you actually look at the net costs, you might start at 90, but then as you're paying for office space and whatnot, and you start at 85 on the other side, working it down, you might end up at an 80/80 on either platform. So again, don't necessarily look at just strictly the grid payout. Look at the net cost. And again, make that part of your due diligence process. I hope this helped. And I did not, as I said, I purposely did not want to get too deep into all the different firms. I want to give a very broad stroke of what independence looks like and the different platforms, the different payouts, why there's different payouts, and why there's different upfronts. With that said, I am now open to questions, and I don't see any coming in. So if you do have questions and you wish to reach out to me in the very near future, what I'm hoping for is that, Cetera covers, if we go back to that one screen that talks about the different independents, we have a direct model. Thank you. We have a direct model. We have an OSJ model, and we have a structured independence model. I cover the structured independence model for the firm, but if you would like to have an open conversation about all of them, I'm more than happy to help. And then I want to ensure that I get you to the proper platform in that consultative conversation. And again, I see no questions, so I'd like to thank you for your time. And here's my contact information. You can obviously reach out to me via email, or that is my personal cell number. And I hope to hear from a few of you in the very near future, and I can help you find the independent platform of your choice.